All right. It's getting crazy with these Democrats on this story out of Minnesota. Let's check it out. Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. In the wake of the Renee Good shooting in Minneapolis 5 days ago, it is obvious Democrats are still the party of open borders, anarchy, and chaos. They did not swing at all after that last election. They have not learned a lesson. And once these people get back into power, look out. They will again decimate our sovereignty and continue importing the welfare-needing third world to replace the vote of sensible Americans who just want to live in a safe and stable country with its own culture, heritage, and integrity. The reactions to the death of Renee Good have been nothing short of remarkable. We've been seeing them all throughout the weekend. The elites of the left claiming with a straight face that Renee Good was murdered in cold blood, ignoring that Renee Good was a mother who'd lost custody of two of her own kids and had totally reimagined herself in the past year as a lesbian anti-ICE warrior, far-left radical antagonist, devoting her life now to tormenting federal agents before she drove straight at one as she was about to be arrested.
Nicole Good, as you hear her say, she's not mad. She's sitting in her car, peacefully waving cars to get by.
Of course, this is for the mother who was murdered.
The ICE agent was not run over. You had a person that was definitively trying to just get out of there.
What happened in Minnesota was a straight-up murder. This lady was probably trying to go home, and she didn't make it home, and that's really sad.
It's shameful, really, that in our country we can have law enforcement officers who commit murder.
It looks like she was trying to get away, and he shot her 3 times in the head. Murdered in cold blood.
Just a mom trying to get home, murdered ruthlessly by ICE agents. She might as well have just been sitting on a park bench reading a book. Seriously dangerous propaganda is being spewed about what happened last Wednesday, 5 days ago. A barrage pummeling the American people from every angle. This is how they manufacture their own reality. We saw it in Minneapolis when George Floyd died. They just memory hold that first autopsy, which showed a significant amount of lethal drugs in his body. That clearly was the reason George Floyd died, from simply being restrained on the ground. If you take a sober person who's violently resisting arrest and lay them on the pavement, their heart doesn't stop. Same here with Renee Good, just trying to get home. A woman just trying to get home doesn't get shot by an ICE officer. That just doesn't happen. A woman who spends hours committing multiple crimes against ICE gets shot when she makes a final fatal error and barrels her SUV toward an armed officer just before her arrest. These are the martyrs of the left. There are others, but in Minnesota, these are the big two. But to gain enough sympathy to move an election, you need a more sympathetic story. A career felon resisting arrest, and a mom who lost custody of her kids and transitioned to Antifa at 37 years old are not exactly sympathetic to the average voter. So you have to create a new story, right? Then you get to the reality of what Renee Good was actually impeding here. The real true story of what these ICE officers are actually doing in these communities, even though celebrities tell us they're just ripping innocent people from their families and sending them away. No. The arrest of seriously horrible people in our communities is the real story. Tom Homan explains exactly who ICE officers have been picking up in Minneapolis.
Dangerous, worse the worst that ICE has taken into custody. Many of them, child sodomy, child rape. ICE is out looking for dangerous people. It's not okay to impede and interfere with an officer. Would it be okay if a citizen impeded and interfered with a U.S. Marshal arresting a fugitive? No. Is it okay if they stood in before the FBI when they're going to arrest a terrorist? No. These are targeted enforcement operations. They're arresting bad people, and it's illegal. Let's remember, what she did was a crime.
These people would have protested the killing of bin Laden. They'll protest anything. Aside from Renee Good and her new wife, what percentage of Americans do you think believe that we should not be deporting illegal aliens who sodomize kids? What number is that? And there you have it. This is why they got to lie about the story. That's the reality of this story that the entire left-wing machine is concealing tonight. The ultimate goal, to use this story to turn Americans against basic federal immigration laws. That's the real goal. That's the real prize. Democrats decided unilaterally that our beautiful, wealthy country should be raided and looted by all the impoverished people of the world in recent years as the left has gone absolutely off the cliff. And Democrats followed them right there. Joe Biden's administration showed us the plan during his term. He wasn't really aware of most of it, but the people that were really running the show knew exactly what they were doing. And now the process of reversing that treasonous act that we saw in Joe Biden's administration, that process is being vilified as the most vile and despicable thing, anti-American thing that we could ever do. Protecting the sovereignty of our country. Democrats say it's outrageous that ICE is coming into our cities and hunting down innocent people and citizens and just sending them away. It's against protocol, they scream. We've never seen anything like this before. Well, we've probably never seen an ICE operation like this before, but we've never needed an ICE operation like this before. Remember, we've also never seen 15, 20 million people just allowed to walk into our country and demand welfare and hotel rooms. This is the chaos that they started. And they're pretending that it's just organically happening out of nowhere. And it's not in response to something as ridiculous as what they did to your country. The people attacking this process are frauds. They are vile anti-American traitors. Our immigration agents are the last line of civility for this country. If we don't deport these people, we have no sovereignty in this country. The people attacking ICE officers want to live in a lawless, open society. It's the only thing that's cathartic enough to ease the guilt that they have for living better than the rest of the world. Most of us don't feel that guilt. Most of us like the life that we have, and we work very damn hard to get it. These people don't care. People need to understand that before they pick a side on this issue. You need to understand what the other side, the Renee Good side, really wants. They want the decimation of your country, your quality of life, of everything, because they hate their life, and they hate this country, and they hate everything. You don't chase around federal agents trying to stop them from doing their job unless you are a seriously twisted person. Are people going to align with that? No. So they lie about what happened. She was just an innocent woman trying to get home. Trump described the professional ICE agitators, of which there are very few. You know, it's a little gaggle of 30, 40 people that just follow these guys around. It's a very small percentage of this country that wants this. Trump describing them on Air Force One.
These people have been harassed. They're threatened every day. They had bands out playing so they couldn't sleep at the hotel. I see what they're doing to them. They're threatening them constantly. And all they're doing is doing what I got elected on.
He's right. It's so much simpler than these people are making it. Do you want to live in a first world country or not? If you want your country watered down and your wealth looted by the rest of the world, then you side with the leaders of the state of Minnesota, most of the Democrat Party these days, and the people that are attacking our immigration system. And that might seem like a lot of people because they get all the airtime and they're the actors on the stage in Hollywood because the actors are too stupid to realize what they're asking for. And the small faction of people that get a lot of airtime chasing these ICE agents around. But it's not mainstream at all. Remember, in Minnesota, it all comes back to the billions that were stolen by the Somali community. That's why they're so outraged in Minnesota over this, because these are victims, right? Oh, they're African refugees. How can you go after them? Well, these people are stealing a tremendous amount of our money. It was a fraud allowed by state leaders who allowed it because it benefited their politics. Those are the real criminals. The people that allowed Somali refugees to steal billions of dollars. Those are the real criminals. Here's one of them, Keith Ellison, today.
The truth is, Donald Trump doesn't seem to like our state very much. But what's that about? He doesn't like our best in the nation, safe and secure elections. And sometimes he doesn't like who we choose in them. He doesn't like how we take care of each other or how we make sure our kids have enough to eat. He doesn't like the strength that immigrant communities bring to our state. And he doesn't seem to like that we protect our neighbors no matter where they were born.
Such an idiot. Such an embarrassing, corrupt idiot. Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota. I pray to God he hears this somehow. Sunday on Face the Nation. And by the way, what is it that the president doesn't like about your state, Keith Ellison? He doesn't like the fact that your state has enabled the fraud of billions of dollars from the federal government. And that's all of our money that gets funneled through your city and your state and then turns into funding for terrorism in Somalia and Mercedes-Benz for people that came here as refugees, giving us a sob story and then coming here and stealing, robbing us blind. That's what he doesn't like about your state. And the fact that you knew it was happening, your governor knew it was happening, and couldn't care less because everybody that was stealing the money was your voter. That's what he doesn't like about your state. Absolute fraud, humiliation. Keith Ellison. Sunday on Face the Nation, Margaret Brennan humiliated herself by allowing Ilhan to go on the show and egregiously lie about the Somali fraud story, even helping her to make outrageous claims on all of that daycare fraud. All of the dozens of daycare facilities that have the fully blacked out windows so dark you can't see inside a daycare facility and no kids inside. Watch this from Face the Nation.
There was that conservative influencer who went out and posted this video that went viral alleging that daycare facilities were pocketing public funds.
Yeah, and as you know, he went hours where these businesses were not operating.
Yep, CBS went out and did its own
again
investigation.
Creates the level of confusion and chaos.
There was no recorded evidence of fraud, according to the CBS investigation that was conducted. But Governor Walz did choose to not run for re-election. He dropped out of the race because of all of this.
Because he wants to focus on defending our state and not defending a seat.
He's giving up his entire political career because he wants to focus on defending our state, because there really is no fraud. And when did that Nick Shirley kid, when did he go out and check on these daycares? He went on a weekday in the middle of the day when the daycares aren't operating. You saw the video. The sun is high in the sky. He didn't go at 10 o'clock at night. He went in the middle of the day, and he'd find one Somalian woman in there just laying around, and a place collecting hundreds of thousands of dollars in your money. Ilhan just says whatever the hell she wants. Carte blanche, say anything, because you know what? You got a sympathetic host sitting across from you. She's going to carry you the rest of the way, Ilhan. Tim Walz, at 60 years old, just decided to give up running the state of Minnesota. He was almost the vice president. Now he's just done. He's done for no reason other than he just wants to tamp down the rhetoric. Yeah. The host of Face the Nation to believe that there's no story here. It's amazing. It's like the Hunter laptop all over again. All right, Congresswoman Paulina Luna joins us now, and it's good to have you here. I want to start with, obviously, Minnesota. And, you know, the Renee Good story is kind of a smaller part of a much larger story, and that is that the 20 million people that were let into this country under Joe Biden, the same people that are making all this noise right now let that happen to this country. And I think the question becomes for, I think, most Americans when they look at this is what side of this, you know, decision do they want to be on? And what side of the American policy on immigration do they want to be on? Because the alleged victim here, Renee Good, and her wife are out there. They're basically anarchists. They're essentially Antifa anarchists that want to have a completely open society with no rules, no regulation, no immigration enforcement. I don't think most Americans agree with that. And that to me, I think, is a very important part of this story, is where do you stand? Do you want no immigration policy in this country? Because that's what these people are fighting for tonight.
What's really interesting is they don't want any immigration until you send people from Florida to Martha's Vineyard, for example, and then they're the first ones to send them right back out. Look, I think we've been pretty straightforward, at least speaking for my community in Florida. I think a lot of people are really upset about the amount of people that have come here and then also come here not just illegally, but those that maybe came here fraudulently and are now abusing our system. And we're seeing this at mass scale in Minnesota specifically. But I think that if you look at more of these blue cities and blue states, you'll find it probably not the only occurrence to have happened. And so I'm really happy to see that the White House has assigned a new Deputy Attorney General to this topic. And also, too, I'm very happy that the criminal referrals that we've been sending out of our office have been making big waves at the Department of Justice, and they're following up on that. So I think that there's going to be more to come out of the DOJ on our criminal referrals regarding Governor Walz and also to the Attorney General of Minnesota.
Yeah, there's I mean, a tremendous amount of corruption in that state, and the fraud story is another huge side of this. I want to talk for a second about a guy named Neville Singham, though. American businessman, made a fortune here in the United States, moves to China, and now spends a lot of his money, millions of dollars he spends, trying to destroy the country that made him wealthy. He's a communist, he's a traitor, he's a terrible person. You have issued a subpoena against him, trying to draw him back to the United States to find out just how involved he is in the chaos that we're seeing being manufactured in our streets over immigration. Talk about that.
Oh, most certainly. So to be clear, this subpoena was a motion that I made in committee, and it was passed unanimously by both Democrat and Republicans. I actually explained just that this individual, Neville Singham, is not a FARA agent. He's not registered as an agent of China, and yet he is funding a lot of these anti-ICE riots that you're seeing across the country. But not just that issue. You can take other issues like Israel versus Palestine, for example, not to get into the politics of that, but taking that as a simple issue. And he's funding an organization called Code Pink that doesn't actually seek to solve the issue or even back up a peace deal. They simply aim to sow discord, specifically in the House of Representatives and among the American people. And we know for a fact that this guy is an open Maoist. It's actually, he's self-proclaimed. But he is, I would argue, probably worse than George Soros. And he's gone on for far too long, unvetted and unchecked. When then Senator Rubio was the head of Senate Intelligence, he actually had put a recommendation in for the previous Attorney General to bring charges. It was never followed up on. But we did make referral to the DOJ. We also sent the Treasury a request to freeze assets because of his failure to cooperate with House oversight and refusal of a request to come in to testify. So we have now issued the bipartisan subpoena. And I would say that this issue specifically, if the DOJ follows up on it, if Treasury Secretary Bassett follows up on this, and they actually take this seriously, which I think they will, I do think that you'll see a lot of the foreign funding ties as well as the chaos that we're seeing in this country, specifically now even looking into what's happening right now with these, again, counter-ICE protests now in Minnesota, that you'll see exactly where it's coming from, and it is simply benefiting the Communist Chinese Party. And I will again say we support free speech, but when you are now violently protesting and causing harm to other American citizens, that's where we draw the line. And so I look forward to seeing what the DOJ has to say on it.
Yeah. And then what kind of a scumbag makes all of his money in the United States and is a Maoist? I mean, if you truly believe in it, he should send every penny that he has to the Chinese Communist Party for them to redistribute that wealth as they see fit in the country that he lives in. But he's not going to do that. I got one more for you. Jerome Powell, federal prosecutors opening a criminal investigation into the Federal Reserve chair on whether or not he lied to Congress about the scope of the renovation to the central bank headquarters. The president's talked a lot about this. In July, you referred him to the DOJ for just that. Powell has come out saying he's being targeted by Trump because he didn't cut interest rates. Tell us why this is a justifiable investigation into Jerome Powell. What is it specifically here that you see?
Look, you can't perjure yourself to Congress, and regardless of what the senators, I don't even know if we want to call them senators because I don't think that they're actually representing the interests of their voters, but regardless of what some of these Republican senators are saying about, this being targeted prosecution by the president, specifically Murkowski, I actually just said today, this criminal referral is one that I did directly and I sent last year. And so for people to say that this is somehow partisan and now somehow the DOJ is opening up this investigation, we sent that request because of his own statements. Powell's own statements where he perjured himself to Senate. And the Senate, as well as Congress, on the House side, has the exact same rules. You can't lie to Congress. Anyone else would go to jail for that. So I'm the first person that says if you're going to do it, you should be held in criminal court for it. And so I think that he'll have explaining to do. I don't think it has anything to do with the interest rates, but I also find it very interesting that people are failing to go back to the point that we sent this referral last year and they're trying to make it current as if it's targeted and it's not. So we'll be fighting the fake news all day long on that one.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's, that certainly does change the story about, the anger at Powell over interest rates was not nearly as as intense as it has been the last couple of months. All right, good stuff. Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Good to see you.
Thank you. God bless.
Ben Ferguson, host of the Ben Ferguson Show, joins us now. The left is done having a sovereign nation, Ben. That's it. We are here to be looted by the rest of the world to appease their guilt. That's the message.
Yeah, anarchy, chaos, right? And forget elections. Who needs elections, right? You don't get your way, burn it down. You don't like the police, stand in front of them. You don't like where tax dollars go? Hell, just steal them and give them to Al-Shabaab, a terrorist organization in another country. And then when you get busted doing it, what do we say? you're a racist. How dare you question the Somali community? When you look at Minnesota, and the question I want to ask to Alam Omar is this: can you name any program in your state now that has not been exposed to have fraud in it when federal funds are involved? Like, just one. Give me one damn program that there is no fraud involved with federal funds coming in. Because if she can do that, I will say glowing reviews about her as a human being. But until then, she's, I would argue, a part of the corruption. She is a part of this cartel from Haiti that decided to take all of our tax dollars and give it to terrorist organizations. There's no way you can convince me that she's actually working on behalf of the American people that she claims to represent. I do believe she's the best congresswoman that the Haitian people have ever had in the United States of America, because what she's doing is giving them cover for the fraud, the waste, and the abuse. And when she says there's nothing there, I'll ask her this question. You know the cameras the FBI put up that was supposed to show millions of meals going to people that desperately need to eat in her state, and they found out they were feeding virtually no one? My question is she going to stand up for those kids? The kids that meals were being stolen by the Haitian community? I'll wait for a response from the congresswoman from Haiti.
Somalian, right?
Somalia. Excuse me, Somalia.
I had to correct you. You said it 5 times.
Thank you.
Oh, Ben Ferguson, that was a good one. We appreciate you coming on. Thanks,
Good
buddy.
to see you.
All right. It appears hundreds of protesters have been killed by the regime in Iran. What comes next? That's next.
If they do that, we will hit them at levels that they've never been hit before. They won't even believe it.
Hi there, I'm Dean Heskin, President and CEO of Swiss America. Do you know which investment has outperformed almost every other asset class since the beginning of last year? And that Goldman Sachs research is now forecasting to reach further heights. That's right, it's gold. Central banks around the world continue to buy gold at record levels due to economic turmoil, foreign conflicts, and a weakening U.S. economy plagued by debt. If you're concerned how to protect yourself as our financial system weakens, our team at Swiss America has a solution. For over 40 years, we've helped people just like you purchase precious metals for home delivery and for your IRAs. Don't miss out before this next big price jump. Call or text Swiss America at the number on your screen to receive your free portfolio review and a copy of The Timeless Truth About Gold and Silver. Let us show you how easy it is to safeguard your money. Call or text Swiss America today.
The future of real estate is here. Real estate tokenization turns property ownership into digital tokens on the blockchain, allowing assets to be divided, traded, and managed with ease. Through fractional ownership, stop trading stocks, start trading skyscrapers. For the first time, you can buy, sell, and trade ownership in income-producing real estate as easily as a share of Apple stock. Your portfolio's next power play is here. TheInvestorsPool.com.
Pain doesn't just hurt, it limits you, and it keeps you from doing the things that matter most. I know because I've been there. I work hard, I'm active, and I love being with my family outdoors. But what I've noticed is that life never waits for the pain to disappear. So let's start the new year off with a Signal Relief patch. Take advantage of our 20% discount and get your patch today.
As a surgeon, if it can help decrease that pain, short-term or long-term, why not try it?
I absolutely recommend the Signal Relief patch for anybody going through, it could be anything.
I'm wearing a Signal Relief patch 24/7.
This Signal patch, it's literally changed my life.
When I put this patch on my ankle, I was getting relief.
In a recent study, 85% of people felt relief, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. We all hurt, whether it's our neck, back, knees, or shoulders. The fact is, the patch works.
Welcome back. The Iranian regime entering the third week of fiery protests in their country, calling for the demise of that regime, finally, after 45 years. Despite President Trump's warnings, hundreds have reportedly been killed by regime forces. Trump writing over the weekend, Iran is looking for freedom, perhaps like never before. The USA stands ready to help. Iran threatening to strike U.S. military personnel in the region if we strike them. Trump did not like that. Take a look.
If they do that, we will hit them at levels that they've never been hit before. They won't even believe it.
Do you think
I have options that are so strong. So, I mean, if they did that, it'll be met with a very, very powerful force.
The regime comprised of some of the worst human beings that exist on this planet, who now say they're ready for war or dialogue, while their supreme leader posts an image of our president in a coffin on X. Wall Street Journal reporting Trump is currently leaning towards strikes against Iran. Marshall Billingslea is a Hudson Institute senior fellow, former special presidential envoy for arms control at the State Department. Marshall, good to have you back on the show. I understand the MAGA isolationists are concerned about regime change. Venezuela, they had concerns there as well. We're talking about the #1 state sponsor of terror in the world. So this is a little different than just us punishing a country for not having a democracy, right?
That's absolutely right. We're also talking about a regime that's not only slaughtering, and Rob, I think it's far more than hundreds. I think the number of protesters they killed is probably in the thousands. But this is also a regime that is still pursuing long-range ballistic missiles and nuclear weapons. President Trump has already shown that he's not going to listen to the isolationists when he conducted Operation Midnight Hammer to destroy the nuclear weapons program, or at least bury it. And I think that we're now at a tipping point where his red line has been crossed. Remember, he warned the Ayatollah that the United States was locked and loaded, quote unquote, if they started killing protesters. And the Iranian regime has walked way over that red line at this stage.
If this regime is ousted, what does the Middle East look like in the aftermath?
Infinitely better. Infinitely better. Let's be clear. The Ayatollah and his mullahs in Iran that have been exporting fanatical Shia Islam all over the region, who've been funding the entire terror apparatus throughout the Middle East, whether we're talking about the Houthis in Yemen, Hamas in the Gaza Strip, or Hezbollah in the case of Lebanon, or the Iraqi paramilitary groups. If that regime falls, the entire funding, the oil money that flows into that terror apparatus dries up like that.
Interesting stuff. A case to watch. Marshall Billingslea, thank you so much. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Rob.
As Democrats declare all-out war against the federal government, we're going to meet some of the fake cops supporting attacks on ICE, the agents of chaos installed by the left, posing as police. Congressman Brandon Gill is up next.
In no way is meant to disparage.
In today's uncertain economic climate, don't leave your future to chance. Earn a 10 to 12% fixed return with the safety of hard assets. Strategic metals include technology metals, rare earths, oil and gas royalties, and real estate, also eligible for IRA and 401k rollovers. For the last 35 years, we've helped investors reduce taxes and increase wealth. We can help you protect your nest egg with the safety of hard assets, steady income, no risk to your principal, 10 to 12% fixed return earnings. Call now or visit scottgengler.com.
I really love Balance of Nature.
There's so many vegetables and so many fruits.
I love everything about it.
It's just such a phenomenal product. So, got to keep doing it.
Lock in 50% off for 1 year.
AI can turn your lights on.
Lights on.
And drive your car. And even write your kid's essay. But AI ain't gonna fix your broken water line or pay for the big repair bill. Having a plan from HomeServe offers real solutions. And when a covered system breaks, we'll send a qualified contractor and pay for the repair. There's nothing artificial about the peace of mind you get with a plan from HomeServe. Getting one is quite intelligent.
Plans from HomeServe start at just $4.99 a month.
Call 1-844-752-2141 or visit HomeServe.com.
WSOP presents the NFL Poker Experience. Rep your team. Compete in exciting NFL tournaments, win exclusive NFL Poker Championship rings, and collect cards to complete the NFL albums. Download the WSOP free-to-play app for a chance to win $1,000 towards your favorite team merchandise.
Don't let hackers start the new year with your money. Cyber criminals are targeting your savings and identity and your personal information. Respond with Guardio. Guardio is a security tool that stops fake sites in real time, flags malicious emails, and blocks phishing links, helping you outsmart modern threats and stay in control of your online security. Run a free scan to see if your information is already exposed by going to Guardio.com now.
He's breathing. Okay.
Again? Children account for 75% of choking deaths.
That's why I recommend everyone have a life vac in your home, car, or business.
The life vac is simple to use. Just place, push, and pull.
Its suction removes an obstruction out of the airway quickly, saving a life.
If you use your life vac for an emergency, we'll replace it for free. Order now.
Go to lifevac.net or call 877-543-3822.
Don't kibble your dog.
Oh, hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, Bat.
But what's wrong with this? It's premium stuff.
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means it's ultra-processed at extremely high temperatures that destroy the nutrients in the food. But at Dr. Marty, we gently freeze-dry premium meats, fruit, and vegetables, locking in their nutrients.
Never kibbled.
You got it, kid, and they're gonna love it.
It's time for the American people to organize and to utilize their Second Amendment right to protect themselves from what has clearly become an unaccountable and lawless agency.
When you have people knocking on your door and taking you away without due process as a citizen, isn't that what the Second Amendment was written for?
We have to show up with guns. We have to. There's no other way around it. There's no waiting to the ballot box. We need to get to the bullet box. People need to show up with guns to face you guys. It's time. We're in armed resistance against the United States of America.
That's just some of the rhetoric surrounding what happened in Minneapolis last week. And if you thought Michael Fanone, the cop from January 6th, was anything but just a communist stooge, you now see exactly what he is, calling for the Second Amendment to be used against federal officers. The left is openly declaring war on the federal government, yelling in the streets for the hanging of our DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. These people want no border controls at all, saying it's time for their foot soldiers to use their Second Amendment to shoot ICE agents, that coming from a former cop. Overall, attacks against ICE are up more than 1,100% this year. Explains a lot, doesn't it? Vehicular attacks against them are up 3,200%. There's like one every couple of days. A car rams into ICE officers. Rather than cool the temperatures, though, so-called sheriffs out there, we have a number of them that are not actually police officers. They're just agents of chaos, throwing gasoline on the fire, openly siding with criminals instead of law enforcement. Philadelphia Sheriff Rochelle Bilal, imagine how she got the gig. Here she was after the fatal Minnesota shooting, labeling ICE as fake law enforcement, threatening to arrest federal immigration agents if they go into her city, saying that they don't want this smoke. Take a listen.
We are not going to whisk you away for them to hide your identity, because when you do it there, you're getting arrested there. The made-up, fake, what you can call ICE, professional law enforcement, I don't call them none of that. I call them made-up, fake, wannabe law enforcement. If any of them want to come in this city and commit a crime, you will not be able to hide. Nobody will whisk you off. You don't want this smoke, because we will bring it to you.
It's not a cop. This is the same thing we see with state's attorneys, with DAs. We see this all over the place. These are Marxist agents of chaos. They are there to disrupt and destroy the agencies that they control. That's a perfect example of one right there. She doubled down on her threat against federal law enforcement on CNN. Take a listen.
You come in this city to do a crime, we will bring the smoke to you. People are tired of these people coming into the city masked up, basically all masked up, and pulling people out and causing havoc.
Embarrassing. So embarrassing. It gets even worse than that. All across the country, we're seeing this. In Portland, the police chief, Bob Day, so riddled with white guilt, he got in front of cameras and cried after 2 Tren de Aragua illegal aliens were shot and wounded by Border Patrol agents as they were being apprehended. DHS says the 2 cartel-linked illegals tried running the agents over with their vehicle before they got shot. They were clearly shot in self-defense. And the police chief, or I guess the sheriff, unable to hold back his tears while confirming that this happened. Take a listen.
There is an association with the 2 folks yesterday and TDA. I hesitated to even share this information initially because I'm very aware of the historic injustice of victim blaming. It saddens me. I've attempted to understand through your voices your concern, your fear, your anger. In no way is meant to disparage.
Congressman Brandon Gill joins us now to talk more about this and just what we're seeing in this country. And Congressman, it's good to have you here. That lunatic is a police chief in Portland. He should be folding the towels at a Bed Bath & Beyond. How is that a police chief?
You know, it's not a police chief. These aren't people who are looking to uphold law and order in the United States or to carry out duly passed laws that the American people voted for Congress to pass. You know, it's rich to hear Democrats all of a sudden supporting the Second Amendment. First, they were against the Second Amendment for a very long time. Then they were against law enforcement. That's why you saw the defund the police movement. Then it was we want to defund ICE, and now it's explicit calls for violence against federal law enforcement officials. It is utterly grotesque. It's disgusting. And remember, these are not polite policy disagreements with Republicans or with President Trump. These are people who are calling for violence against federal officials in federal law enforcement. This is something that has no place in our country, but that's what the Democrat Party today has become.
You know, if in 2028 they win the presidency and they get both houses of Congress, what do you think happens on immigration in this country? Are they just going to, I mean, will they rip the wall down that Trump's building?
Well, that's the question, and I think that that's at root why the Democrats are so upset about federal immigration and enforcement. Remember, President Trump is doing exactly what the American people elected him to do. Securing the border, immigration enforcement was the single biggest issue of the past election cycle. But Democrats know that their political support comes from mass migration. It comes from an unchecked welfare state. That's why you saw the fraud in Somalia. Democrats have been betting for a long time that they can open up our borders, flood our country with illegal aliens who will impact congressional apportionment, and ultimately, they believe, be able to vote. That's why they are so dead set on stopping what the president is doing and simply upholding our laws, because that is their political path to power.
You know, it's and again, it just you see exactly how they operate and just how they're working. So it's brilliant, actually, the way they want to destabilize this country. When you see a sheriff like we see in Philadelphia, when you see the Portland police chief, when you see, you know, these operators like the Manhattan DA, and the way that they do it is they install people that are there to decimate the agency that they are now running. That's the whole point. They're not there to run it to make it better. They're there to destroy it from within. That's the brilliance of these, you know, I guess, Marxist tactics. It's not all terrible, though. I mean, there is still some common sense. We saw it from Chicago's police chief, Larry Snelling. Take a listen to him.
Federal agents, ICE, HSI, are officers. They are agents of law enforcement. Do not box in any law enforcement officer. You are breaking the law when you do that. And you are putting yourself in danger. We cannot become a society where we just decide to take everything in our own hands and start to commit crimes against law enforcement.
It does. That's exactly the point. And that's exactly what, you know, when you listen to everybody trying to explain on the left what happened to Renee Good last week, that's what they completely ignore. How many times this weekend did you hear somebody say she was just trying to get home? No. She was radicalized in the last year, completely turned into a totally different human being, and spent most of her time trying to antagonize and threaten federal law enforcement agents, and spent her whole day that day trying to prevent them from doing their job, which is absolutely a crime. And then the moment she was about to get arrested, she very stupidly floored her car with an agent right in front of her. Now, I don't know if I believe that she wanted to kill that agent, but you put yourself in a situation like that and you play this really stupid game, you make a critical error like that, you will get shot.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, the question is, how many ICE agents do we have to tolerate being attacked by rabid, deranged left-wing demonstrators whose stated goal is to unravel civil society and stop the enforcement of, again, laws that were made by duly elected representatives in this country, the will of the American people. How many ICE agents have to be attacked? How many police officers have to be attacked before we wake up and realize that what Democrats are trying to do is unravel civil society, create chaos, create a level of destruction that they can then step in and create a problem that they want to ostensibly solve in the name of bigger government, in the name of open borders, and in the name of a left-wing, far-left ideology that the American people simply don't want. It really is disgusting. It's grotesque.
It certainly is. Congressman Brandon Gill, good to see you again. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, coming up here after the break, the Golden Globes last night was a mockery. We've got Jillian Michaels up next talking about that. Stay tuned.
$600 a year. If you're 50 plus, you could save up to that much by switching 2 unlimited lines from big wireless to consumer cellular. And we've got the same reliable coverage. So why don't you pick up your phone while I take this hammer and... I can't feel my feet. If you're over 50, get 2 unlimited lines for $30 each. And right now, get your second month free. Call Consumer Cellular.
Muddy paws, dirty shoes, endless cleaning? Your floors never seem to stay clean. Now there's a simple solution. Meet Muddy Mat, the ultra-absorbent microfiber mat that traps dirt instantly. Engineered with thousands of advanced ultra-soft microfibers that are 5 times more absorbent than ordinary doormats. Muddy Mat doesn't just catch dirt, it locks it in. Whether it's mud, snow, sand, or water, every step on your new Muddy Mat leaves your floors spotless. And its reinforced rubber backing keeps it firmly in place. No more slipping or sliding. Perfect for your entryway, kitchen, bathroom, or even under your pet's food bowl, Muddy Mat absorbs up to 5 times more water. And when it's time for a cleanup, just toss it in the washing machine and it comes out looking as good as new.
Dog parents, this is a must-have.
My floors have never been so clean. I mean, both Ruby and Blue came in covered in mud, and this anti-mud mat left their paws sparkling.
I've got muddy mats all over the house. I even use one as a bath mat. It feels so good under my feet. It's so soft. Non-slip backing makes it safe too.
With multiple dogs, I've always struggled with having dirty paws on the floor, but with this mat, I can finally stop stressing out about it because there are no prints anywhere.
It's so soft and squishy. I've even found my puppy sleeping on the mat instead of his bed. They work so well, I bought 3 more so I could put them all over my house.
You just place the Muddy Mat in front of the door and you'll save up so much time cleaning the floors. Go get one. Thank me later.
Imagine the relief of coming home to clean floors every day. Call the number on the screen or visit trymuddymat.com or simply scan the QR code right now to claim an incredible 70% off and get your free Muddy Mat today. But hurry, this exclusive offer is available only for a limited time. Once they are gone, they are gone. Don't let dirt dictate your day. Join thousands of satisfied customers who have already transformed their homes with Muddy Mat. Act now. Clean floors, happy home.
Call 1-800-505-4572.
A new year brings new threats, and Cyberman's ready for every one of them. While hackers plot their next move, Cyberman's already there, protecting families, businesses, and governments before danger can strike. This year, protect what matters most with easy-to-use, award-winning protection. With PC-Matic, you get American-made protection that's faster, smarter, and stronger. Start 2026 with confidence. Visit PCMatic.com today.
The grind catches up with everyone, even me. That's why I trust Cunol Ultra High Absorption Turmeric to support my joint health. It's the #1 doctor-recommended form of turmeric. It helps you keep doing the things you love at every age. Cunol, the brand I trust.
This is for her. This is for the people in the United States who are terrorized and scared today. I know I'm one of them. The guy is a convicted felon or convicted rapist. He's a pedophile. He's the worst human being in the world.
We need to speak up. We need to be out there and shut this rogue government down, because it's just awful what they're doing to people.
I believe we're a dictatorship now.
Oh, Mother of God. The Golden Globes were last night. You probably didn't watch too much of it. I didn't realize they were on until this morning. Alienating the vast majority of Americans who just want to live in a sovereign country. Jillian Michaels is the host of Keeping It Real, is with us now. I mean, you listen to that. I mean, some of these people need to go to therapy, I think.
I know. I am confounded. I ask myself, are you ignorant or just narcissistic and performative? It's a Google search. Was Trump convicted of rape? Answer, no. Is this a dictatorship? No. Trump was democratically elected by the majority of Americans and won every swing state. It is staggering to me that they spread this kind of misinformation. Do some homework.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
But I mean, you live in L.A. I used to live in L.A. I mean, I know these kinds of people, and like actors are very, very talented in one way. But I've met so many of them. They're very, very, very stupid in other ways as well. And a lot of them aren't. And that's the other part of the equation is this, that the ones that make a lot of noise are in the best safe place ever. But what you have to realize is so many of them aren't barking this loud because they know they can't. And you really think about like how many of them are just secretly like, this is crazy town.
So many of them feel that way. It's literally called a tragedy of the commons. You get that sideline DM of totally agree with you, wink, wink, but then never say anything publicly. And it's kind of disturbing is really the right word because of how divisive this is. This is actually the kind of rhetoric that gets someone like Renee Good shot.
Exactly.
It really is.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I mean, we have created this delusion in this society that somehow the richest country in the world can just be borderless and it's all going to be okay, and LA and New York are still going to be wonderful places to live. Just come along with us on this magical journey. It's lunacy.
I mean, let's think about this for a second. Rogue government is what Wanda Sykes said. ICE, they're federal law enforcement officers enforcing laws enacted by Congress, just like Obama did, just like Clinton did. And that's another thing. The selective outrage is really repulsive. Why weren't you outraged at Obama's cages? Why weren't you outraged when Clinton worked with a Republican Congress to remove due process via something called expedited removals? How come the ICE raids didn't infuriate you then? They deported millions more than Trump. Where's your outrage? I'm
lost.
Where is it? Where was it?
Lost somewhere. We don't know. Jillian Michaels, good stuff. Good to see you.
You too.
All right, going to do just a couple minutes of sports here. Once again, it was a huge night over the weekend, Friday night, for my alma mater, the Indiana Hoosiers. This football story is just unbelievable. A game where Indiana was favored to win by 3.5 points. IU blowing out the Oregon Ducks by 34 to win the semifinal at the Peach Bowl. Final score 56-22. Indiana scoring touchdowns on 4 consecutive offensive drives. Again, I went to this school. I never even went to a football game. That's how bad the program was. Now it's the best in the country. The Heisman winner, Fernando Mendoza, having a historic season, taking the undefeated Hoosiers to the national championship game next Monday in his hometown. He's a Miami kid, Mendoza. And it'll be a home game for the 10th seed Miami Hurricanes against his team, the Indiana Hoosiers. The program, one of the most remarkable stories we've ever seen, considered one of the worst programs in the sport for decades, is now the best. And the governor of Indiana is back with us tonight. Governor Mike Braun joins us now. And, sir, let's start off with your reaction to this and just how incredible this has been.
Well, Rob, being Hoosiers, this has been about the most pleasant thing I've done since I've been a senator or a governor. And if you remember, 3 weeks ago, we were talking about what if. And there I was kind of musing about the fact if we did get to the championship game, being 50 years ago, what we pulled off undefeated, winning the NCAA basketball championship. I didn't want to dwell on it much because I wanted to get to what we've done these last 2 rounds. Alabama and Oregon, what their lines were, if you're not a believer in Hoosier football, I don't know what it would take. And now we've arrived. I just can't wait to get it across the final finish line here next Monday.
Yeah. I know you and I have the same politics, and we're going to have to set that aside for a minute because Mark Cuban, who is an IU, it's his alma mater. He went to the same school that I did. He gets a lot of credit for what's happened here. He's donated a lot of money, and people are saying that he's been kind of the big booster that kind of created this. What's your reaction to that?
Well, we're not going to agree on much politically. I do like his cost-plus effort he's trying to make on health care, but we'll take it. The whole system, Rob, with the way it's run now, let's face it, we probably couldn't have gotten IU from that dreaded record of having the worst to now where it's the second worst. That's how long it takes to move it, but now it's the best. I mean, that is material for a movie, and all of us that have waited so long, we just hope and pray that this coming Monday is going to be a repeat of some version of the last two games. Amazing story, a coach coming to Indiana. How did no one else get him before we did? And then was out there so confident. He said, Google it, I win. And you talk about delivering. Unbelievable. The players, all of them. I mean, you couldn't put together a more storied approach to it. And here we are. Let's get it across.
A week from tonight in Miami. Again, it'll be a home game for the Hurricanes, but IU is the strongest team in the game right now. I don't think there's any question about that. Hopeful for a big win next Monday night. Governor Braun, thanks for coming on. Good to see you.
You bet.
Go IU. All right. Up next, Mattel introduces autistic Barbie.
The poverty is unimaginable. There are people who are struggling.
This is where she washes the dishes.
If you're ever going to allow your Christian faith to rise and to do something for God's chosen people, now is the time.
This is the home of Galena. She's 96 years old.
This is what she had to eat for today.
She has one pot with water and wheat.
My father was killed by the Nazis, and I was an orphan. I didn't know about God. But now, in the cold, hungry nights, I prayed for food to the God I've never known. There are good people that love you.
You see the tears. Scripture says joy can come in the morning, and you can be the reason.
If you will bless these hurting children of Israel, you will receive God's blessing in return. Your urgent gift today of $25 will help rush a survival food box filled with life-saving essentials. If you call right now, your gift's impact will be doubled to help save lives. Call, scan, or go online now.
I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, I don't know how much longer she could have waited for us to come.
I can't even grow my food anymore. What will happen to me? I'm doomed to starve.
Tens of thousands of elderly Holocaust survivors in the former Soviet Union are living in extreme poverty, hungry, and forgotten. But through the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, we can bring them hope.
It's my favorite food. May you be blessed.
You say to them, we see you and we're here to help.
If you call right now, your gift's impact will be doubled to help save lives.
Every day across the globe, big business agendas go unseen by investors. Things that go against your core values and beliefs. It's time to know your investments. Abortion, alternative lifestyles, gender and identity confusion. If you believe in protecting marriage and life, children, innocence, guarding masculinity, restoring families, defending religious liberty, invest with your values. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Joining us is Dr. Drew from the Wellness Company with advice for dealing with seasonal colds and flu. Doctor?
Cold and flu season is here, and every year you or a loved one gets sick. Your doctor can't see you. Waiting in a crowded urgent care is brutal. This is a particularly bad cold and flu season, and it's why doctors suggest every family needs an emergency medical kit. Your medical emergency kit is filled with essential prescriptions. It includes antibiotics like generic Z-Pak to get well faster, amoxicillin for pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections, plus prescriptions for nausea and UTIs, and even ivermectin. It's easy. Just match your symptoms to the prescription in your guidebook or call the telemedicine doctor standing by. Take your medication early and feel better faster. Having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care in your home. No waiting to see a doctor, no lines at the pharmacy.
Smart advice. We've shared the website and discount code below to save viewers $45. Order now and your kit will be rushed to your door. Thank you, doctor.
Welcome back. Time now for news from the left. David Letterman bashing his former network as CBS tries to return to the days of Walter Cronkite.
What about those idiots at CBS? The CBS News is a wreck. It's just gone. It was that mentality that drove the integrity of CBS News that has been trampled on, pissed on, and eviscerated by these idiots that have taken it over. Yep. And I'm at a point now where it really is hurting my feelings.
Letterman has been a rabid leftist for decades, very angry. His ideology is no longer running the CBS newsroom as they try to change things across the street. And finally, the autism has become so endemic that Mattel is unveiling its first ever autistic Barbie doll. Design team making choices that make people feel comfortable if they're on the spectrum. Features like elbow and wrist articulation enabling stimming, hand flapping. Also, the eyes kind of look to the side in case they don't want to make eye contact. Isn't that something? A problem so real it has a Barbie doll, but when our health secretary looks for a cause, the left goes nuclear over that? Amazing. We'll be right back.
As a cardiologist, when I put my patients on a statin to reduce cholesterol, I also tell them it can deplete their CoQ10 levels. I recommend taking Cunol CoQ10. Cunol has 3 times better absorption than regular CoQ10. Cunol, the brand I trust.
I lost 110 pounds. You couldn't tell at all because of my excess skin. Sono Bello changed that in one visit.
Introducing the new Lift EX, the just one visit, total body transformation everyone is talking about.
I am super happy with my results.
I decided to give Sono Bello a try. Look at me, I have a silhouette. You can see my waist.
Lift EX is Sono Bello's breakthrough 360-degree body lift alternative. Our body contouring experts sculpt, tighten, and lift your stomach, waist, thighs, and backside, all in just one visit with less downtime.
Sono Bello targeted the areas diet exercise could not do. I found me again.
Sono Bello has over 50,000 5-star reviews, and Lift EX is exclusively available at Sono Bello, America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist. Book your free, personalized consultation today. Easy monthly plans make your best body more affordable than ever.
This year is my year thanks to Sono Bello.
Call Sono Bello for your free consultation today.
Doctor's Preferred Liver Defense is doctor developed to support your natural detox function with clinically validated, triple tested key ingredients to energize and renew your liver. Find Liver Defense in the supplement aisle at Walmart. Doctor's Preferred. Better science, better results.
With riots and violent looting going on all over the country, I don't feel safe leaving the house without this banana. Normally, I would be worried about this creepy guy, but I've got my banana with me. That same car has been sitting outside my house for a while now. Better keep this banana by the door.
Sounds ridiculous, right? Now imagine this banana was capable of incapacitating an attacker from over 60 feet.
At Byrna, we don't sell bananas. Go to Byrna.com to learn more.
Introducing Stogo, the only apparel with adjustable medical-grade support engineered with high-strength cables that reinforce the body, designed to help you overcome injuries, minimize pain, and regain the confidence to get back out there. Learn more at Stogo.com.
Precise designs, subtle curves, curated upgrades, elevated design for thoughtful living. Thuma.
Infinity's up next. Hey, Rob, did you watch the Golden Globes last night?
Oh my gosh! You know, I'm a lifelong New England Patriots fan, and I decided to skip their first playoff game in several years and watch the Golden Globes last night. No, I would never watch that because it's total, complete crap.
That's a wonderful summation of what it was.
That's it.
I know you're going to show a little of it on your show.
We are, Rob. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
I love these exchanges we have every night. I look forward to this.
Isn't it
Rob.
fun?
Yes.
Good, clean fun.
All right, Rob. We'll catch you in a little bit. Thank you.
All right.